Nope. What's going on out there, YouTube fam? This is Sam Lake here representing TeamJVS, here to give you guys another movie review, and I'm talking about, yes, Jordan Peele's newest film, Nope. This is starring Daniel Kaluuya yet again, KekePalmer, Stephen Yeun, Brandon Pera, I think it was also, who else was in this? Michael Wincott, Keith David, like a whole slew of amazing actors and actresses. Now, the backdrop of this is KekePalmer and Daniel Kaluuya are brother and sister. They are horse ranchers, best way I can kind of put it. Like, they are people that take care of the horses and facilitate them in whatever way, whether that is, you know, to use them, you know, for racing, using them for having stuff being moved around, or possibly having them be utilized as rider trainers for movies. And that, ironically, that is what is happening. The beginning of this is that they kind of state that one of the very first movies that was actually made, you know, their family was connected to it because they, you know, they facilitated how that was going to work. And so KekePalmer goes on this huge monologue and rant, and you get a very interesting perspective on her from the very get-go. But then Daniel Kaluuya, it seems like he's got a lot going on in his mind. It seems like he really doesn't actually want to do this anymore. Whereas Keke, she does, but she also is doing it for another reason. But as much as I really enjoyed like the chemistry between Keke and Daniel, it's Stephen Yeun's character that actually makes me the most intrigued, because he's got an interesting past where it comes to life, death, perspective. And when they showed the flashback sequence of him as a young boy and who he used to be versus who he is now, and that trauma, and also the connection with the monster that is revolving around in this, is at the epicenter of all this. It's all about your incapability of controlling something that you think you should be able to, and what that does to everyone around you, and the ripple effect that that causes, and also like the generational like things that kind of that brings with it. Because unlike, you know, Daniel and Keke's character, Stephen is very rooted in himself, and there's a reason for that, because he's trying to safeguard himself from what could potentially hurt him and what he's trying to keep under check. And it's very fascinating, that human nature side of it. That to me is the best part, the meat and potatoes of this film, because all those sequences in the past were just horrifying. Like, they were terrifying. And also, like, I didn't know what was going to happen. And also towards later on, when there's a direct comparison, when you get to the monster that's actually going on, that's when it's even more crazy. It's like this unknown, you know, that you don't know why it's happening, but you know for a fact that there's absolutely no way of you being able to control it. And I think that is where Jordan excels in this, because he pumps that up to 1,000 by the time you understand what the monster situation is. And your immediate perception is, okay, this is aliens. It is and it isn't. Now, I'll say this, the aerial shots, the cinematography, some of the moments in this are amazing. They're astonishing. Some of the cinematography is some of the best this year, especially the night shots. I don't even know how he was able to capture so much, so well lit with the night shots, because that requires a couple different things: good editing, good color grading, masterful cinematography and where you want the placement to be. Also working with a hand rig that's got to perceive where a CG shot is going to be here or there, or even maybe having it mapped out in the storyboard with exactly how he wants it to be. But that is crazy. Like, how much work and dedication put into that is felt, absolutely. Even down to Michael Wincott's character, who's like this amazing photographer that wants to capture this entity. Even how he uses him is very fascinating. So I think that cinematography wise, great. The sound design is great. Great sound, amazing sound. I think the problem that I have with this is the punchline. When you actually get to what is this entity, and, you know, how it connects to, you know, OJ and Emerald, I just don't get that gut check. And that's not to say that the performances by KekePalmer isn't great. She's just a great performance here. Jordan always finds a way of pushing a pivotal performance through some way, shape, or form. He's always in all three of his films, and this is no different. But how they utilize the brother and sister in this with the monster becomes more of a pivot point than anything, versus you getting something out of it. And I think this is a very interesting comparison, but I'm gonna do it anyway. When I looked at the movie Signs, I thought that the pivot was always gonna be the monster, right? But really it's the characters and how they have to work through their trauma of what's happening and also who they were. And it's like there's not enough meat and potatoes for me to get behind either one of the two characters outside of something that's going on with their father that makes me kind of like, oh, okay, I need to see how they're gonna navigate through this, work through this. It just didn't have that much of a or a payoff that I was looking for, that I feel like that he has succeeded in spades with some of his other films. That's not to say this is a bad film, but it just wasn't something that I probably wouldn't watch again. Whereas the other two, I went and rewatched over and over again just to see what other stuff that I'm missing. This is really straightforward. There are certain symbolisms that they use with Stephen. So yeah, I would rest this at a 6.5 out of 10. Definitely worth watching once, but as far as repeated viewing and what they could have done, I think that's kind of left at the cutting room floor, but definitely worth a watch for the very first time. Let me know what you guys think. If you feel completely different, that's fine. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button. Let's talk about it in the comment section below. Peace, guys. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop.